Hey guys, that's Later Magic here, and in case you hadn't heard, on November 25th, 2016, which at the time of this recording has not occurred yet, there is a very special set of MTG coming out called Planechase Anthology. Now, unfortunately, at this time, we know practically nothing about the actual product or what's going to be in it. So for now, I definitely want to cover what Planechase actually is as a format because it's really awesome. I've played it before and we just played like 15 games in a row because it was so awesome. In general, the best description I can give is that it takes a normal game with normal decks, you're versing each other, whatever, and just adds complete and utter chaos to it. Now, Planechase goes back to 2009, so about the same age as Modern, give or take, and I think it was pretty popular back then. Obviously, I wasn't playing back then, but based on the fact that it came out again in 2012 and then it's coming out again in 2016 means it's probably popular. Now, you guys know the basic premise of MTG, which is I'm a Planeswalker, my opponent is a Planeswalker, and we're both dueling it out with spells and creatures under our command and using mana to summon them. Well, we're Planeswalkers. Why are we not shifting through planes? Why don't we take this battle to all kinds of different planes with different traits? And so logically enter Planechase. It's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. To a certain extent, when a player wants to, they can just shift to a different plane and maybe level the battle a little bit. If they're losing, they could completely turn the game around, or it could completely backfire because, well, it's random. The main addition to the game are these gigantic oversized cards that represent what plane you're on, and I don't know what it is, but I love oversized cards. Commanders, planes, if they're big, throw them at me, I love them. By the way, do not literally throw them at me, they are rather heavy. So the rules state that you have to have at least 10 of these planes, or more, and I believe there's, at least 80. I know the new set is going to have 86. If you think about all the planes we've actually visited in the storylines, yeah, it's a couple. Technically, you can each have a pile of planes, but that feels kind of rigged, and this is supposed to be random and chaotic and fun, so I always use a shared planar deck, which means you both pull from the same pile of planes. So I'll just keep describing the game as if that's the way we're playing. So right when the first player starts, they flip up what plane you start on. So for example, let's say we flip up Llanowar. This is an example of one of the planes that you can land on, and some of these I think are subsections of certain planes, but they had to split it up a little bit. In fact, this one says we're on Dominaria, but it's specifically Llanowar on Dominaria. AKA Elf Central. Everybody remembers Llanowar elves? I mean, come on. Most of the plane cards have an ability that's just static. It just says, hey, this is now a trait of all creatures. This is now a thing that you have to do. This is a thing you can't do. Something like that. So this particular effect is all creatures, that's you and your opponent, have tap, add 2 green to your mana pool. So if you're not even playing a green deck, it probably doesn't help you that much, although you can feed it into generic costs, obviously. But if you are playing a green deck and you purposely went to Llanowar, holy cow, does that help you out a lot. Now the bottom part describes the chaos ability, and that's where it gets really fun. Now, the primary way of getting on or off of a plane is through the TSA security line. Just kidding. Hey, if you want to perform a full pat-down of your opponent before you start the game, that's on you. But the normal way that you leave a plane, or enter one, or basically just switch the plane, is by rolling the planar die. It's a special 6-sided die where 4 of the faces are blank, one of them has the Chaos symbol, and one of them has the Planeswalk symbol. Now, Planeswalk means you leave the plane, and then Chaos means, well, whatever's on the bottom of the card with the Chaos symbol, that's what happens. Now, of course, living up to its name, the Chaos ability could be good, it could be bad, it could be just dependent on circumstances, but it's basically just whatever's written on the card. So in Llanowar's case, it's whenever you roll the Chaos symbol, untap all creatures you control. So that benefits just the person rolling. So let's take a look at Marasa on the plane of Zendikar. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield, its controller may search his or her library for a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield tap, then shuffle his or her library. And we all know Zendikar was all about land. It's just land, land, land. So the abilities really match the storyline, and I think that's just the coolest thing ever. Plus, they're really creative, really strong, really powerful, and really disruptive. You could be completely and utterly losing the game, and then change to a plane where you're now the king. And of course, keeping with the crazy land in Zendikar, we've got whenever you roll the Chaos symbol, target land becomes a 4/4 creature that's still a land. So basically a free Awaken ability, although don't get it mistaken, with Awaken it doesn't gain haste. Let's take a look at one more example plane because these are just wild. I can't even get into the depth of how crazy some of these effects are, but this will give you a pretty good idea. Minamo in Kamigawa. It's home to those moon homies, moonfolk. I like moon homies better. Let's go with that. And it's very, very blue. Whenever a player casts a spell, that player may draw a card. Holy crap, that's like a Planeswalker Ultimate Emblem level crazy. That's so blue I can't even handle it right now. And of course, whenever you roll the Chaos symbol, each player may return a blue card from his or her graveyard to his or her hand. Classic blue mechanic. Now you're probably wondering where the die rolling comes in. This is where it gets pretty funny. During either player's turn and during either of their main phases, they're allowed to roll the dice for free. Now I said dice because you each get your own die, but you only roll one die, of course. Or you share the die if your friend lost the other die. So of course one of three outcomes can happen. You can either land on a blank face and then absolutely nothing happens. You can land on the chaos symbol and then whatever the chaos ability or trigger event or whatever is on the plane, that occurs. And if you hit the planeswalk symbol, you planeswalk to a different plane and you just bury this one and flip up a new plane. So you can of course decide not to roll if, the plane is very advantageous to you and you think you might win. But of course, if you find yourself saying, I need to get out of this plane immediately or I'm going to lose the game, then you can choose to roll the die again, but it costs an additional 1 mana every single time, and this is where it gets utterly hilarious. Let me give you a great example. Let's say you planeswalk to Turi Island in the plane of You know what? It's the Land of Oz. So you're like, oh my gosh, creature spells cost 2 less to cast. I'm going to cast my whole hand. Woo, I've got a giant army. Take that. I'm running a creature deck. But then on your opponent's turn, they roll their way out of the plane and you land in Phyrexia, my favorite place in the world. In fact, the 4th sphere is one of the nicer of the 4 spheres. I have no idea if there are 4 of them. I didn't play during Phyrexia. Actually, I take it back. It kind of looks like Detroit. So let's see what this friendly plane has in store for us. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a non-black creature. Oh good, my opponent's playing black and I'm not. Well, that certainly turned around pretty quickly, and then they're rolling chaos symbols like you and believe to bring out 2/2 black zombies, and you're losing your carefully summoned creatures one at a time, and now you're top decking. So you say to yourself, Phyrexia is a crap hole, I need to get out of here. You take your free roll for the turn and get nothing, it's blank. So you pay 1 mana. You tap 1 land and there you go, you got 1 mana. So you spend it and roll again. Oh no, another blank. So then you pay 2 mana, roll the die again. Oh no, it's just a chaos symbol. You get a 2/2 black zombie, which is great because you don't have to sacrifice it, but you're still way behind. So you pay 3 more mana. That's a total of 6 mana, but you had it. And then you finally planeswalk out of that hellhole. A lot of people are so desperate to leave the plane, they'll actually do it during their first main phase before they even swing or, combat occurs or any of that. They just want to get out of there. But sometimes there's a great reason to leave it until your second main phase, like for example, if you're on Zendikar in the Tazim, province, we'll say. In Tazim, creatures can't block. What? So you take your combat, swing, they can't block you. If you didn't already win the game, then you probably want to immediately planeswalk out of there before your opponent gets the exact same idea. Plus, if you hit the chaos symbol, you might draw a card for each land you control. That's a lot of cards. So you can see how this can just wildly swing just utterly crazy, especially if you have like 50 planes available to play with. You really don't know what's going to come up. Now, I don't want to spoil the little fun thing, but not every single plane card is actually a plane. Some of them are in between planes, some of them sort of describe like an event, but I'll let you find out about those on your own. It's so much more fun to just hit them blind. So the great thing is you could play Commander with Planechase, you could play Standard, you could play Modern, you could play Vintage or Legacy, you could play just complete freeform, casual. The only rule is that you basically add the dice and then add the planes. That's it. It's so easy. So you don't even have to say, oh, I'm going to play Commander. Okay, now I need to build a Commander deck. If you want to play Planechase, you just grab a deck you already have. It's just the greatest thing ever. I absolutely love it. It's probably my #1 favorite format. That means it even beats Guns and Gripes, which you've probably not heard about. Every time somebody plays a card that's rated 2 out of 5 or lower on the Gatherer website, you go outside and have a pistol duel over the usage. I really like that format because it's really exciting, really gets you into it. And, the ammo really is pretty cheap these days, too. Now, I should mention that if you're playing Planechase and you're thinking, hey, I didn't come across any, non-plane cards, Planechase 2012 is when they added what they called Phenomenon cards. You're limited to only having 2 of them in your deck, but they're pretty wild. Basically, all I can tell you about it is you planeswalk to the phenomenon, you follow the instructions on the card, and then you immediately planeswalk away from it. It's pretty wild. Is one of them a board wipe? Is one of them, you can travel back to any plane you've been to before? I don't know, maybe. So if this format sounds fun to you, watch out for the new Planechase Anthology coming out in late 2016. I'm very excited about it. The one thing I'm not excited about is the MSRP of $149.99. Holy crap. But I actually do know a couple details about it that I'll share with you right now. You get 4 ready-to-play 60-card decks from Planechase 2012 edition with 8 rare cards. Like 8 rare cards each. So they stuff those decks, and they're all pre-made if I'm not mistaken. They're not randomized. You get 86 planar cards. Oh my gosh. That has to be pretty much every plane ever, and they haven't said if it's any new ones or not. I doubt it's all reprints, but it is called Anthology. I would be happy either way. You get 4 really nice sliding deck boxes, and you get 1 oversized sliding deck box to put the planar cards in. You get 35 double-sided token cards, and I believe those are the tokens for the actual decks, and I'm not sure what they mean by double-sided, if it's like a zombie on one side and an elf on the other. I really have no idea, but I'm excited to find out. You also get a special edition planar die, that's right. I really don't know why you don't get 4 of them, but that's odd. I really hate sharing. And then you get 4 spin-down life counters, of course, and a strategy insert just telling you how Planechase works. So the inclusion of the 4 pre-made decks is pretty cool because they're nice and even. So if somebody wants to play with their modern deck and you want to play with your standard deck, I don't think there's a plane in the world that'll help you beat them. I do recall playing with the originals, and I would say that the decks were pretty level. I mean, if you're just bad at playing red in general and you're bad at making decisions with what red usually does, you might feel inclined to say that like the red deck is poorer. And that's just an example, but, overall, they level them pretty well. I mean, you guys have seen the dual decks. They're not always perfectly level. But hey, you could just completely bypass them and play with whatever decks you want, and that is why Planechase is one of the best formats in all of MTG. So feel free to share your most epic Planechase battle stories down in the comments section. We all have them because the games just get utterly mental. I, for one, ran completely out of creatures because of the plane that we were on before, and then we landed on Zendikar, and I just kept rolling chaos symbols and just kept animating my entire line of lands, ended up winning with a giant army of lands. And look forward to more details about Planechase Anthology when it comes out on November 25th, 2016, and I'll see you guys next video.